Nightwing 136, Legacy number 323. Dan Waters writing with DENYS COWAN on the art. So yeah, new artist on this arc as well. Which, to be fair, I mean, this does have a slightly different tone, and sometimes that can help with a new art change to sort of get the tone across you want. So we have a new mayor in Blüdhaven, which
yes,
Nightwing talks about in his narration. And the big thing is that quite quickly he seems to have built this super highway that runs through the middle of the city. And we get some panels of this, sort of some bird's eye view. So this is like an interesting issue where like Nightwing's explaining all this. He's getting into a car, right? He's got like a Nightwing mobile, if you will. And,
I'm glad you called it. That was exactly what I was going to call it.
And he's like driving, and he basically says, "Oh, like this replaced a bunch of like good pedestrian walkways in the middle of the city, and now you can't walk there anymore." And it's this, you know, just like a spider's web of like, you know, high speed roads, and like 30-something people have already died, and he's been hearing rumors, right? That's what he says. So at this point in the issue, I was thinking, okay, I like that they're doing something different, and they're setting up this new villainous mayor that they teased at the end of last issue. And, you know, I'm enjoying the vibes, but I was like, okay, but what are we actually doing here in terms of story? I wasn't sure what it was yet. And then it kind of like unfolds a bit more, and like Nightwing sees this like very disheveled woman kind of wandering in the middle of the highway and says, "Hey, get in, you're going to get, you know, hurt out here," or whatever. And she gets in, and that's when he starts to reveal that, you know, some of it's dialogue with her and some of it's narration, but it talks about how this truck driver like picked up a woman who looked like she was in trouble, but she kept talking about witches and then tried to kill him. And he ended up being okay. He was able to fight her off, but it turns out that this is this woman, and that we're doing some kind of witch story where this woman, maybe there's more than one, but certainly this one, is haunting the crossing of all these highways, because the legend is that witches in Blüdhaven used to get killed and buried in unmarked graves in the crossroads. And it's kind of this thing where they're seeking some kind of vengeance now. I'm like,
I am willing to put money down that this is a thing of like, we built over the ancient burial grounds that were not meant to be disturbed, and this is like the ghost or whatever coming back.
Very possibly. I'm not even that fussed about the reason. For me, I was just kind of into like the vibes, and I was kind of into kind of the horror story aspect to it, and I really liked that about the last like big arc that he did, all the Zanny stuff. I liked the horror movie stuff of that as well, but this feels like it's sort of like inching more towards a slightly different genre of horror.
It felt so weird to me, because obviously the story starts and they're like, oh yeah, they built this super highway, whatever like that, and then Dick gets in the car, and like you're expecting it to be this high octane, like speeding up and down the highway, the way the Batmobile is used, like it's dodging, weaving through traffic and all that. No, he's stuck in traffic. He's just sitting there looking at brake lights because this highway sucks. And the whole horror aspect from the book is Nightwing starting this conversation with her, treating her like she's, you know, having a mental breakdown and she just needs like some professional help or something. And then more and more gets revealed, and it still doesn't quite get to the point where it's like, okay, this is, you know, some eldritch Stephen King-esque like horror from beyond the grave or whatever. It's still him trying to help her, but she just causes this intense accident that kills so many people. And that's where the horror really drives from.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it's good for Nightwing as a character that he's trying to help her. Like, he thinks this is a woman who's having a breakdown, and he's saying, oh, are you okay? Like, are you confused? You know, that kind of thing. And she pulls out this like ceremonial knife or whatever, and like starts to try to stab him, and he has to kind of fight her off. And like you said, he ends up veering off the road, and like he builds it up in the narration. Like the writing here does a good job of like sort of setting up how bad this is about to be, because Nightwing's talking about it in hindsight, where he's saying, "Oh, I've went over that moment like in my head like every day since, and it
took 9 seconds. I counted it out.
And is there any way that I could have had this result in anything different?" And he's like, "No, I don't think there is. I think no matter what happened, this was going to result in the same accident." And it's this pile up where a bunch of cars like crash into his, and I love the coloring where she pulls out the knife. We get almost this red tint on some of the panels of her and the knife, so it makes her feel like she is some kind of demonic witch of some kind. And when she's telling the backstory and we're seeing the silhouette of the hanging witches from the tree and all that, like it was giving me the vibes that I was like super into. And Cowan's art's so different from Soy's that it does feel distinctly more gothic, I guess, in comparison.
It's got a scratchy grittiness to it. It's very, very much. I mean, when we were talking about solicits, there was like a horror-esque cover there that looked like an old horror VHS. It's got that kind of vibe to it.
So yeah, it causes this 2-page layout where the car veers and all these crashes start happening in these panels, and you see in the next page just how many cars seemingly have all collided, and there's just fire everywhere. And there's a great panel of Nightwing punching through the windshield to get out of the car that he's in. Because, well, I call it the Nightwing Mobile. It's just a car. It's just like a normal car. Right. And he gets out, and he's a little bit bloody, and he's trying to find if there's any survivors, and he pulls one guy out of a car, and it's whatever, but he tries to find her. He's like, okay, that woman might still be in there, but she's gone. And it's kind of like open to interpretation here. Like, is it because she's supernatural and just vanished, or is it because this woman was just able to get away and she's like wandering somewhere else now? So open to so yeah, the book sort of ends with him looking in the reflection, and it goes all tinted red, and he's like sort of like enraged, and her hair is almost like Medusa like in this reflection in the puddle. It's all sort of spread out. So yeah, and he ends with him saying, "This is all my fault." So I love the name of this arc. It's called Blüdhaven Lore. Is the name of the arc, and I think it's a cool. It's like because it's almost like when Snyder did like Gates of Gotham and stuff like that, and did Court of Owls even, and sort of like there's all this history to Gotham. I love this idea that Blüdhaven's got like a Salem the witch trials kind of past and other stuff from its like ancient history that's going to start to find its way into the lore.
I do wonder, though, is this going to be focused on this witch character, or is this going to be like an anthology sort of thing where like we get different aspects? Because that Blüdhaven lore implies much larger than just, here's some witches from the city's past or whatever.
Oh, sure.
And this story does kind of feel like it wraps that up of saying like, was this actually real? Is there an actual like ghost of a witch in this town or something like that? I can
see it moving on, but then it kind of wraps it back in like later down the arc. I could see that.
Yeah, I could see it.
Maybe all of this stuff, like, because maybe this villain is intentionally trying to like raise demons, like raise these ghosts from the past, or like I don't know, maybe that's like an intentional thing, or maybe it's just a byproduct of the evil shit that he's doing. Like, I mean, I don't know. We'll find out. Yeah.
No, I mean, obviously we have the idea that Blüdhaven was raised, like there was the whole earthquake and all that stuff that knocked down a whole bunch of stuff. And the idea...
Technically not an earthquake, but I get why they would call it that, because they wouldn't know what else to call it.
Yeah, exactly. But I like this idea that, okay, we're rebuilding. We're building new. We're building bigger. Obviously, this highway is not like a good thing inherently, but I like this idea of building new, and all this stuff building on top of the old brings back out the old. We are forced to deal with the Blüdhaven's history that was kind of shaken loose from all of that.
Yeah, I love that how much of a new chapter this feels, but it's still Water's Run. And just this idea that we're, again, building up the idea of the city and the mystique and the atmosphere of the city that's now changed somewhat. And it feels that Nightwing's in kind of this darker story. I'm kind of into it. It's good stuff. And I could see him tackling all sorts of different stories with this. But I really like this. And like I said, Cowan's art is very suited for the vibe that this seems to have switched to with this issue. Very pleased with it.
I love the art style on this. It's fantastic. And even just like I don't know if I give it my art of the week. I'm still up in the air on that, but that moment when it gets to the like, she pulls the wheel, it starts this pile up, and just the double page spread on that of showing the building chaos is such good pacing, both from writing and art.
And I love how heavy the moment feels, because it's like, people definitely just died, right? Nightwing will save as many as he can that have survived the actual impact, but some of those drivers are absolutely dead, and there's nothing he can do about it. So it feels dark because like people just died on his watch, effectively. So, it's good stuff. It has weight, and the atmosphere is just killer. There's like an ethereal lore quality to it that I'm really into. So. All right, what are you giving Nightwing?
I was bounced between a 7.5 and an 8. I think I'll give it the 8. I think it's definitely up at that level where I can see this being the dark patterns of Nightwing. I could see this being the sort of like, okay, let's just take a little bit of time on each of these creepier gothic stories that we can do and just really making it something special.
Yeah, you're a tough crowd. Like, I thought you were going to go higher than that, because I'm going 9. I thought this was great.
Ooh, yeah.
This was fantastic. So Waters has been killing it on Nightwing, and he's somehow shifted to a new arc, and it's still killer. So excellent.